evening. Welcome to the show. I'm Regina Lay.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
Tonight's big stories. Dismissed Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo is currently in Indonesia, according to reports received by the Bureau of Immigration. And yet, the lawyer who notarized her documents last week insists that he saw her personally.
And Vice President Sara Duterte and Senator Risa traded barbs and got personal during a budget deliberation today, and it all started with a children's book.
And speaking of the Vice President, Duterte says that she is well aware that lawmakers in the House of Representatives are openly discussing plans to impeach her.
Our top story tonight, still very much Alice Guo, with the case rapidly turning into an international manhunt. The Bureau of Immigration has confirmed that it's gotten reports that the dismissed Bamban mayor is now in Indonesia.
The agency said that Guo may have left undetected through illegal means. They are now investigating whether any of their own officers had a hand in the alleged escape.
Meanwhile, all eyes are also now on attorney Elmer Galicia, the notary who testified that Guo personally appeared before him to file her counter affidavit just last week. Elaine Fulgencio with a big story tonight.
Where in the world is former Bamban Mayor Alice Guo? What the Bureau of Immigration can confirm for now is that they too receive reports that she landed in at least 3 countries: Malaysia, Singapore, and more recently, Indonesia. But how did she do it?
Illegal po yung paglabas niya, wala po siya sa ating record. Maaari pong in-abuse niya yung mga informal ports of entry and exit. Sa tingin po natin, deliberately iniwasan yung pagdaan po sa mga immigration inspectors. Possibly po either a private airstrip or bangka po or yate, patawid po ng Malaysia.
The Bureau is now investigating how Guo managed to get away and whether there were immigration officials who helped her escape.
Kung ito po ay nakaalis, meron po talagang kasabwat ito, meron itong protector, meron pong nag-facilitate ng kanyang biyahe kasi hindi po basta mag-book ng isang eroplano ng private aircraft, hindi po basta pwedeng lumipad na lang yan ng ganun-ganun na lamang.
The National Bureau of Investigation is likewise verifying this development, since up until now, no eyewitness has come forward to say they saw Guo overseas.
We are still confirming the veracity, the truthfulness of the report. We are still conducting yung amin talagang personal knowledge na makausap yung mga immigration officers of yung Malaysia and Indonesia. As of now, ano pa lang balita pa lang, documents, but then wala pa nagte-testify that they personally saw Alice Guo there.
The NBI will also summon attorney Elmer Galicia, who notarized Alice Guo's counter affidavit. The document was signed August 14, a month since Alice Guo's alleged departure from the country.
Attorney Galicia, he is testifying that Alice Guo went to him personally and subscribed and sworn the affidavit na we will siguro summon or subpoena Attorney Galicia kung he is still telling the truth.
If proven that Guo did not personally appear to sign her counter affidavit, Attorney Galicia could face disbarment.
Violation yan ng aming ethics o na notarial services. Pwedeng ma-disbar ka or ma-suspend ka, depende sa sitwasyon. But here is a serious situation where we are looking for kay Guo, and then magse-certify ka na nag-appear before you. That is a very serious matter.
The Justice Department also vowed to go after individuals who helped facilitate Alice Guo's escape. Justice Secretary Boying Remulla has ordered a thorough probe on the matter, saying heads will roll. They will also be looking into whether Guo's lawyer, who to this day is insisting that she is still in the Philippines, has any liability. Attorney Stephen David told One News Storycon yesterday, just after the news broke of her fleeing, that he and his client spoke the night before and the dismissed mayor gave her assurance that she is still in the country. But another agency, the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commissioner PAOC, has also confirmed to One News that their counterparts overseas likewise verified that based on their immigration records, Guo is now out of the country. PAOC spokesman Winston Castro also believes Guo got help fleeing.
She would not have been able to do that. Tama po yun kung mag-isa lang po siya. Talaga meron hong mga tumulong sa kanya rito para makalabas po ng Pilipinas. Pero hindi natin alam at this point kung sino pa. Kaya muna natin dapat malaman is ano po ba yung mode of transportation ng paglabas sa Pilipinas? So is it through plane or through boat? Para malaman din po natin kung sino mga titinan natin mga ahensya o mga tao at mga lugar na iimbestigahan natin.
Reporting for News 5, Elaine Fulgencio, we are One News.
So the notary public in question, the notary in question, Attorney Elmer Galicia, appeared personally at DOJ offices today to give his version of events. Galicia was accompanied by Bulacan Provincial Prosecutor Sonny Ocampo and Caloocan City Prosecutor Darwin Cañete, who are part of a task force looking into illegal pogos in Bamban, Tarlac. Galicia apparently told the two that he personally saw Guo at around 7 p.m. on August 14 when she and her team went to his office in San Jose del Monte, Bulacan to get her documents notarized. He claimed Guo sat inside her Land Cruiser and only rolled down her window to talk to him.
It appears that on August 14, 2024, at around 7 o'clock p.m., nung dumating siya sa opisina, nandun na isang Land Cruiser, on board is Miss Alice Guo. May nag-arrange sa kanya na may pupunta daw noon para magpanotaryo. And nakausap sila ni Alice Guo dun sa baba ng kanyang opisina at nakita niya. At nagpresenta ng driver's license si supposedly Alice Guo sa kanya. And then he notarized the counter affidavit which was due to be submitted to the DOJ for preliminary investigation.
He committed to file an affidavit and to cooperate. So we will be waiting for him to put it in written form para para siguro kami ng talagang statement niya, no? To put it in black and white.
So now Attorney Galicia has to execute an affidavit, which is another legal document, before the government prosecutors can begin cross-examining him. Because without that document, then it's just all verbal,
It's
right?
all
We
hearsay.
need everything in writing.
And mind you, an affidavit is something you swear to. Yeah, it's a sworn document. That's why.
Just like the notarized document is, right?
Correct. So speaking of that, the notarized document was the one seeking to dismiss the qualified human trafficking complaint filed against Mayor Alice Guo by the Department of Justice, and other people were also included in that.
Which she submitted to the DOJ last week through her legal team. And the reason that this is such a big deal, the Notary Public has come into the spotlight, is because there is a Supreme Court ruling that says a Notary Public should not notarize a document unless the persons who signed the same are the very same persons who executed and personally appeared before him to attest to the contents and truth of what are stated therein.
And in an interview with DZRH, Attorney Galicia did say that when he spoke with Alice Guo, allegedly on August 14, sinabi daw ni Alice Guo sa kanya, pasensya na po kayo, attorney, at wala na po akong malalapitan, wala na pong gustong tumulong sa akin. And Attorney Galicia said he has a soft spot for helping people. That's why he helped her with notarizing her documents. So
I can see that. He seems like a really nice guy.
But now this has sprung into like several offshoot theories, right? One, that of course that this news about the Notary Public and her getting documents signed and notarized, duly notarized, happened when supposedly she was already out of the country based on documents from Malaysia, from Indonesia.
They're directly contradicting each other, yes.
Right. So a lot of people are saying maybe she's coming in and out because supposedly, according to DOJ Assistant Secretary Mico Clavano, law enforcement agencies have also spotted Mayor Alice Guo around here In fact, I think he mentioned San Jose del Monte, Bulacan also, same place where the Notary Public is after July 18. So now the plot thickens.
I don't know that the in and out thing could, well, I don't know, I'm not an investigator, but that would be kind of hard for someone that's as high profile as her.
Right, but she already did
because
get
the
out.
timeline is tight. Supposedly she was seen, or rather her, we have the route. If we could just bring up the escape route again. Supposedly, and this is based on government sources, the one leg there that's in question is still at this point is the Denpasar, the Bali, Indonesia leg, which we haven't gotten anyone to confirm. But PAOK has confirmed that she arrived in Kuala Lumpur July 18, right? They confirmed it to us last night. Na-confirm na rin ng BI yung Indonesia part of it, where she crossed over to Indonesia from Singapore, as well as the flying into Singapore part of her escape route, so to speak.
Right. So if you look at the timeline, if the notarization of that document, that motion that was filed to the DOJ happened around August 13 or August 14, I mean, yes, it is tight, but you know, anything is possible. But that's just what they're saying. I'm
not
just
with someone with her face and her infamy.
Remember, this is someone who had gotten out of the country anyways. Supposedly.
That's right.
Supposedly, we're not sure.
That's right. And now there's an international manhunt underway. Well, not so much international yet, but you know, the BI's counterparts had been alerted overseas. There could be one theory. I just think it's much harder to pull off.
Oh, it's
right?
definitely harder to pull off. But also, if you think about it,
it's going to come down to the question of, do you believe the immigration
Public
officers overseas who have absolutely no reason to lie to their Philippine counterparts, or was the Notary Public, was he had? Right?
But there's also certain strange things, right? Like Kuala Lumpur did confirm, according to PAOK spokesperson Winston Casio last night. He said they were able to confirm that indeed the passports made it to Malaysia, but they could not provide the CCTV footage. So a lot of things like this really throws a lot of questions.
There's no CCTV footage. That's right, and no witness has come forward to say, yes, I saw her in KL, or yes, I saw her in Singapore. So that's the other part of this mystery, which I'm sure we'll be able to piece together, because tomorrow all these government agencies are getting together to try to figure out a plan of action from here.
Well, speaking of plans of action, this one might be a little bit too late, but in any case, the government has already moved to cancel Alice Guo's passport. In a memorandum, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin has ordered the Department of Foreign Affairs and the Department of Justice to take appropriate action. Bersamin cited reports yesterday that Guo fled the country using her Philippine passport as the reason for this move. Bersamin also noted that Guo has a Senate arrest order for her repeated failure to attend the Senate inquiry on illegal POGO activities. The ES also cited the new Philippine Passport Act, where the DFA Secretary may cancel a passport in the interest of national security. Now, under that same law, one of the grounds for the cancellation of a Philippine passport is when the court issues an order for its cancellation as the holder is a fugitive from justice. Besides Alice Guo, Bersamin also ordered the cancellation of the passports of Wesley Leal Guo, Sheila Leal Guo, and Cassandra Ong, the authorized representative of the POGO raided in Borac, Pampanga. Moving on over now to the Senate, where tempers also flared when this chamber tried to scrutinize the 2025 budget of the Office of the Vice President. VP Sara Duterte and Senator Risa Ontiveros got into a heated exchange at some point over a children's book penned by the VP herself. Mayan Los Baños with the story.
It all started with Senator Risa Ontiveros questioning the budget of the Office of the Vice President for a book. The OVP is asking 10 million pesos for the distribution of a children's book called Isang Kaibigan or a Friend, authored by Vice President Sara Duterte herself. When Hontiveros asked what the book was about and how many copies the OVP wants to purchase, the Vice President was suddenly set off.
This is an example of politicizing the budget hearing through the questions of a senator. Ang problema niya kasi, nakalagay yung pangalan ko doon sa libro. At yung libro na yan, ibibigay namin doon sa mga bata. At yung mga bata na yan, may mga magulang na boboto. At yung pangalan ko ay nagkalat doon sa kung saan man ibibigay yung libro.
Madam Chair, hindi ko maintindihan yung ugali ng ating resource person. It is a simple question. Paulit-ulit na this is politicizing. Ang VP ang nagbanggit ng salitang boboto. Wala akong sinabing boboto. I'm simply asking, I don't appreciate this kind of attitude, Madam Chair.
VP Sara then went on to dredge up her history with Hontiveros, who apparently had repeatedly asked Sara for help to win votes back in 2016.
Noong 2016, tumatakbo si Senator Risa Hontiveros na senator, nakailang talo na siya.
Dalawa, Madam Chair.
Natatakot siya sa pangatlong talo niya, kaya pumunta siya sa Davao. At nung nanalo siya, anong ginawa niya? Siya ang pinakaunang umatake kay President Rodrigo Duterte. Anong tawag sa ugaling ganito?
It was at this point that Finance Committee Chairperson Grace Po had to intervene. Po explained that the budget hearing is not about anyone's political history and asked the Vice President to simply sum up her book's concept.
Madam Chair, the explanation is in the title, Isang Kaibigan. It's about friendship.
So kung sana ganun yung naging sagot sa simula pa, di ba? Napakasimple. Simpleng tanong, dapat simpleng sagot. Budget hearing po ito. Hindi po lahat about you. Pera po ito ng taong bayan.
Before the verbal tussle over the book, the tension between Duterte and Hontiveros was already brewing. Hontiveros questioned why some of the OVP's programs seemed similar to those of other government agencies, like livelihood support, burial and medical assistance, and other social aid. Duterte explained that they just can't say no to people asking for help. Hontiveros then suggested to place the OVP's budget to other line agencies already involved in providing assistance. This set the Vice President off.
Quote Senator Risa during the Akbayan Congress. Alam ko po na ang daming kalat ni Duterte na hirap tayong linisin. While VP Sara is in power, the threat of a full-blown Duterte comeback is still a very real and present danger. For one, they are supported by one major superpower, China. So that is an example of politicizing the budget of the government.
Wala akong tinanong tungkol sa China o kahit sino pa mang ibang bansa dito sa budget hearing na to. I am asking about yung national budget na ipapasa natin sa Kongreso para sa bansang Pilipinas.
In the end, the Vice President got what she went to the Senate for, the full 2.03 billion peso budget her office proposed, which now is on its way to the plenary for presentation. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
Now, after the hearing, Vice President Sara Duterte held a press conference where she was asked about a number of current issues. First, she says she's well aware of a supposed impeachment plot against her being discussed by several members of the House of Representatives.
Pinag-uusapan nila, kahit na i-deny nila, pinag-uusapan ng members of the House of Representatives. Expected na yon na gagawin nila. Kasi ano ba ang gusto nilang gawin? Gusto nilang pabagsakin ang pamilya Duterte sa politika. At hindi lang siguro politika, sa personal din. Dahil sinama nga nila yung asawa ko, di ba? He's a private individual, pero sinama nila sa harassment nila. I'm not at all bothered. I am bothered na gusto nila i-frustrate ang pinili ng mga tao na maging Vice President, all because of power and politics.
The VP also said that it was both President Bongbong Marcos and Senator Amy Marcos who came to her to convince her to run under the Uniteam banner. In the past, it was thought that it was only Senator Amy who brokered the tandem. She was also asked whether she regretted supporting the Marcoses.
Pagkatapos ng filing of candidacy, lumapit na sa akin yung magkapatid na Marcos. Sabi nila, hindi kami mananalo kung hindi mo tutulungan kami sa Mindanao at sa Visayas. Sabi ko sa kanila, okay, sige, dahil maraming big ticket projects si Pangulong Duterte sa Davao City, sa Mindanao at sa ibang lugar pa ng ating bansa na gusto nating mapatuloy. Kaya nga, di ba, tumakbo kami on the platform of unity and continuity na hindi natin nakikita ngayon na saan na yung mga big ticket projects. Wala na lahat. Unappropriated. Of course not. I do not regret running for Vice President. Do you want to answer that question?
Now, the Vice President was also asked if she had any plans to run for President in 2028. Here's what she had to say.
Mahirap sagutin ang 2028 kasi imagine niyo, pagbaba ko dito, nahulog ako doon sa hagdanan. 'Di ba? Namatay ako bukas. Sayang yung paghahanda ko. Sayang yung paghahanda ko dahil ang layo ng 2028. Dapat magplano for 2028 sa 2027 at fourth quarter ng 2026.
Duterte also said she expected this playbook from those who want to bring down her family for political gain. She pointed to the investigations in the House targeting her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, her brother Davao City 1st District Representative Paulo Duterte, and even her husband, Mans Carpio.
Nakita ninyo yung gusto nilang mangyari. They want to project the family as corrupt, as criminals, as walang kwentang mga tao, kundi para sa pansarili lang nila. And bakit ba? Bakit? And all because, sinabi ko na dati, we are a threat to the perpetuation in power of people na interesado maging, sabihin na natin Prime Minister, kung matuloy yung niluluto nilang tsa-tsa.
Now, in other news, the National Maritime Council is looking into filing a case against China after the latest incident in Escoda Shoal. Maricel Halili has a story.
The National Maritime Council is now studying the possibility of filing a case against China. This comes after 2 Philippine Coast Guard ships were damaged when they were rammed by a China Coast Guard vessel near Escoda Shoal yesterday. According to the NMC, they are examining which collision regulations were violated by the China Coast Guard.
The principle behind it is to ensure safety among vessels at the high seas, especially, para hindi sila magkabunggo-bungguan. But what happened is, sila pa yung went through the extreme of putting a vessel at risk. No? So it's ridiculous on their part.
The Office of the Solicitor General, which serves as the government's legal counsel, has also been added as a member of the National Maritime Council. It is possible that the Philippines may bring its complaint to a UN body, but that will depend on the Department of Foreign Affairs' recommendation.
That actually signifies the intent of the government to consider perhaps a filing of a case. The Solicitor General is tasked to do these things.
In July, the Philippines and China agreed to work together to ease tensions at Ayungin Shoal, which was key to the peaceful resupply mission at the BRP Sierra Madre. Because of this, the Philippines now plans to include the escalation of the entire West Philippine Sea in the next dialogue with China, especially since the government did not expect China's actions at Escoda Shoal. The NMC insists that a violent response is still not an option.
That would not be to the best interest of our country and of China, and even in the region. We can never go wrong by using this diplomatic and peaceful approach.
The NMC said these illegal actions do not contribute to confidence-building measures necessary for the improvement of relations. It added that the Philippines urges China to refrain from aggressive actions and adhere to international law. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
We're going to be pausing for a very quick break. Right after that, the Finance Department is standing by the transfer of PhilHealth's excess funds, saying sleeping funds are better spent somewhere else. We'll discuss this some more with Dr. Antonio Dance when we return. Keep it here.
Welcome back. You're watching the big story here on One News. It looks like the Finance Department is not heeding the call of healthcare groups to stop PhilHealth's fund transfer, at least not yet. Tomorrow, August 21st, the state insurer is being compelled to remit a second tranche of 10 billion pesos to the National Treasury as scheduled. This is part of the 89.9 billion pesos that the DOF said PhilHealth has in excess funds. In an earlier statement, Finance Secretary Rectos insisted that PhilHealth's sleeping funds are better spent somewhere else. He assured people that his agency is committed to doing no harm, a phrase that medical practitioners live by. The finance chief further assured people that PhilHealth's operations will not be affected by the fund transfer. This is despite yesterday's white coat rally wherein more than 60 healthcare professional organizations in the country urged the DOF to reconsider the plan. The groups gathered at PGH and signed a letter represented by doctors, nurses, midwives, pharmacists, physical therapists, occupational therapists, medical technologists, and other healthcare professionals. Six former Department of Health secretaries, Jaime Galvez-Tan, Manuel Dairit, Francisco Duque III, Esperanza Cabral, Enrique Ona, and Pauline Jean Ubial also signed the letter. Well, one of the doctors who spoke at yesterday's White Coat rally against PhilHealth's fund transfer is Dr. Antonio Dance. He's an academician as well at the National Academy of Science and Technology at the DOST. Good evening, Dr. Dance. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening, and good evening to all your listeners.
Dr. Dance, it's a pretty complicated subject to break down, but essentially the medical community is fighting this PhilHealth fund transfer. The DOF says that these are idle funds, that it's better spent on other things, including, for instance, education, healthcare, and infrastructure. And yet, as I just read, the community, composed of more than 60 professional medical organizations, are up in arms against this. Tell us why.
Well, there are two basic reasons. No? First, and probably more important, we think it's immoral. And second, it's illegal. So first, yung immorality niya, no? There are so many people suffering because of need for funds for healthcare. Napakarami pong naghihirap. Studies show na half of our healthcare expenses are shouldered from the pockets of patients. That's very high, 50%. We're the third highest in the Southeast Asian region. Natalo lang tayo ng Cambodia and Myanmar. So 50% represents a lot of suffering of Filipinos. No? It's also immoral kasi, excuse me, PhilHealth is an insurance fund. Parang ano yan, it's a sign of solidarity among Filipino citizens. No? Parang paluwagan. No? We each pay a premium every year para if something happens to some of us, they can use this fund, this pool of funds na nag-ambagan tayo. So kung ang government actually pays for the premiums, yung ambag ng mga mahihirap, walang trabaho, mga disabled, senior citizens. So pag tinanggal nila yan, that's their subsidy, the premium of these people who cannot pay. Then who is left shouldering the bill for healthcare? Diba? Eh di yung formal sector, those who are actually paying. And many people in the formal sector, naghihirap din. Ang ating premium is now 5% of our salaries. So that's the first. It's very immoral. The second is it's illegal because the Universal Healthcare Act protects the insurance nature of PhilHealth. How does it protect that? Sinasabi doon, it shows there, hindi yan tulad ng DPWH budget or DTI budget na pag may natira, you can get it back. It's an insurance fund. So the Universal Healthcare Act specifically states none of its reserve funds can go back to the national treasury.
Actually, we've talked about that second point, yung illegality at length with former DOF USEC Shello Magno, and she explained it to us clearly. So let's focus on your first point, which is that it's immoral. Sabi mo, there are half of expenses of Filipino patients here in the Philippines are shouldered by people out of pocket, and it's the third highest in all of Southeast Asia. The current PhilHealth packages don't cover this, and what are some of these?
No, in fact, we only fully cover a little more than a dozen illnesses. Yung Z-benefit packages natin, like if you have a bypass or a transplant, and some hospitals have agreed to the fixed rate that will be paid by PhilHealth, yun covered. But there are thousands of other illnesses that are not covered. Dapat yung Z-benefit, yung zero balance benefits, should gradually increase every year because there are thousands of illnesses na hindi fully covered. Marami pa ring out of pocket, like heart attack or stroke or pneumonia. Marami niyan still funded from the pockets of the patients themselves.
Okay, Dr. Dance, yun nga, since nagkaroon tayo ng universal healthcare, katuwang nun, nagtaas din ng mga contributions ng PhilHealth members. We are, I believe, on the 4th year. So far nga, earlier this year, nagkaroon na nga ng issue na pinoint out ni Representative Stella Kimbo na masyadong mataas na yung kinokollect ng premium, yung benefits hindi tumataas. Now, as a doctor representing these medical organizations, since kayo po yung nandyan po sa field,
yes.
What do you see? Bakit po nagkakaroon ng excess funds yung PhilHealth to begin with? Where do you doctors, healthcare professionals, where do you think the bottleneck lies when it comes to spending for, basic health needs and common illnesses?
Well, there are many bottlenecks, but the main one is yung capacity to develop benefits. No? Benefit development, hindi yan simple na sasabihin mo, bayaran kaya natin ang sakit na ito. Hindi. Benefit development entails counting. Ilan kaya ang magkakaganitong sakit? Magkano kaya ang tests na ginagamit nila at magkano yung gamot na ginagamit nila in a year? Gaano kadalas kaya sila kumonsulta? And then once you implement the benefit, imo-monitor mo yan kasi baka na-overestimate mo yung binabayad. Or baka kulang yung binabayad. So benefit development is very complex and technical. It entails a lot of human resource. So one of the main problems is a lack of human resource for benefit development.
The DOF's response to this is that, number one, idle naman daw yung funds. They've issued several press releases to say that the funds are idle and should then be transferred, should then be better spent in other programs that will benefit the whole population. And number two, the money that they're taking away now is in no way going to impact the benefits of the current members. What would you say to that?
Well, let me start with number two. Kasi kung mababaw ang kaligayahan natin and we want to maintain the status quo, then pwede nating sabihin, anyway, it will not affect what we are already doing because we are hardly doing anything. So I don't think that's a good reason to spend that money. No. That money was unspent, but it belongs to the people. Alam niyo yung 500 billion savings na yan. Inestimate yan ng atin actuaries. Sabi nila, oh, this many people will get sick. This is how much they're going to need. Based on the past year, ganito dapat yung allocate natin. At hindi na ibigay. No? So, ibig sabihin, that's not a saving. That's a debt Utang natin yan sa mga tao. And I think that's basic in accounting. You have liabilities, and that 400 or 500 billion is a liability. It's what we owe the Filipino people. So, ang nakalagay sa law, there are only two ways you can spend it, yung reserve funds ng PhilHealth. By increasing premiums and by reducing reducing premiums or increasing the benefits. Nakasaad yan doon sa law eh. So it's really protecting the insurance nature of PhilHealth. So hindi ho tama yun na dahil hindi nagamit, gamitin natin sa pag-build ng mga tulay. No? Hindi ho dapat gawing alkansya ang PhilHealth. No, na lalagyan natin ng maraming pera, singil tayo ng mataas na premium, wag natin gastusin. Ayan, may pambili tayo ng meron tayong pera para gumawa ng mga kalye at tulay and other EPAL projects.
Okay, Dr. Dance, nung Monday naganap yung rally, yung white coat rally ninyo sa PGH. Bukas, Wednesday, August 21, June na po yung second tranche ng fund transfer from PhilHealth to the national coffers. That's 10 billion tomorrow on top of the 20 million back in May. My question is, Regina already mentioned that we spoke to former Finance USEC Shello Magno. Her group, marami din po sila, nag-file na po sila ng kaso sa Supreme Court. I guess my question is, meron din po ba kayong plano to file some sort of petition in the courts against this, or what do you plan where do you plan to take this protest po?
Well, we'll take it to the streets if necessary. We'll do what we can. We don't think it's necessary to file another case kasi we have worked with our colleagues who actually signed to develop a case against DOF, PhilHealth, and the GAA of 2023. So I think it will be confusing if there will be many cases filed for the same case. I think what's being challenged is the constitutionality. So hindi kailangang maraming mag-file ng case na yan. But if we fail for tomorrow's tranche, then we'll work against the third tranche in October. If that fails, we will work against the fourth tranche in November. We will not stop working. Kasi that's our work. Our work is to protect the rights of Filipinos to better health.
Have you managed, Dr. Dance, to speak to the Health Secretary, the current one, Ted Herbosa, or even the head of PhilHealth, Mr. Ledesma?
Only through the Senate hearings. No? So yung Committee on Health, headed by Senator Bongo, held hearings on this. I think the main characters for the transfer are Congress, which authorized a law whose constitutionality is being challenged, overruling the Universal Healthcare Act, which prevents return of the funds to the National Treasury. That's the first. The second party, which is the DOF, ordered implementation, ordered PhilHealth to give 89.9 billion back to the National Treasury. And the third character is PhilHealth, whose board actually signed a resolution that they are granting the return of that 89.9 billion. So they are the respondents in the case filed at the Supreme Court.
Dr. Dance, sinabi nga po ni Finance Chief Ralph Rectos na this will not affect the operations of PhilHealth. But from your perspective, what do you think are the potential consequences if matuloy na nga po itong second tranche of transfer? What do you fear the most how will this affect the healthcare system and the patients?
Well, so first, patients can expect less benefit expansion. Alam nyo, 400 billion looks great. But if we just pay for more benefits, ubus ka agad yan eh. For example, most of our expenses are for hospitalization. Pag malapit ka ng mamatay, PhilHealth will help you. But they hardly help for illnesses that led to the hospitalization in the first place. mga gamot for hypertension and diabetes and other chronic illnesses. So, ubos ka agad yan. And there will be a failure to effect an immediate enhancement of those benefits. The second and an imminent danger, we think, is pagka natuloy ito at natalo kami sa Supreme Court, magiging alkansya na nga ang PhilHealth. We will overcharge and underspend so that politicians can use the savings for other projects.
Dr. Dance, will there be another white coat rally anytime soon? You did say earlier at the start of this interview na you will take it to the streets if you must.
Yes, and of course, alam mo, ayaw naman naming sabihin kami lang ang gustong mag-alaga sa mga kababayan natin, no? We want to believe PhilHealth also wants to do that. We want to believe that even DOF wants that. And of course, our legislators want to do that. So in the interim, we will continue communicating with them, talking to Secretary Recto, if possible. So our letter yesterday was for him and asking him to engage us so we can explain the situation. No? And then if it comes near to the release of the third tranche and still no progress, after talking to Recto, maybe the President, maybe the PCEO of PhilHealth, then we take it to the streets. We'll do whatever we can to protect the rights of Filipino people to healthcare regardless of ability to pay. Yun yung gusto ng universal healthcare, di ba? Regardless of ability to pay. Our analysis shows, alam nyo ba, something depressing. Ang mas nakakagamit ng ating PhilHealth benefits, hindi pala yung mahihirap. People in the highest quintile of wealth, yung pinakamayaman na 20% of Filipinos, they use PhilHealth privileges around 2 times more than those in the poorest quintile, the poorest 20%.
Yes, because
something's really wrong and depressing with our system. And we aggravate it by reducing PhilHealth funds, which can be used especially for the poor.
Yes, I think that's partly because, of course, they're more educated, alam nila yung benefits, alam nila yung rights, right? They understand the membership tiers and what they're entitled to, whereas the,
yung paperwork eh.
Oh, it's a lot of paperwork just to file for a small claim, for instance, right? So a lot of people would get turned off by that.
Access to healthcare. So may hospital benefits ka, but the nearest hospital is 4 hours away. Ano mo gagamitin yung PhilHealth benefits mo? So there are many system problems that have not been solved, which make PhilHealth or universal healthcare, almost like a dream at the present time, 5 years after it has been passed. So we need really PhilHealth to step up in the delivery of health care services for the poorest Filipinos especially.
Dr. Dance, actually, after the groups filed that letter to Secretary Recto, today his office issued a press release, and I will read part of it to you. Recto said he acknowledged the viewpoints of sectors that are concerned about the use of PhilHealth's unused government subsidy, but pointed out that the state has the responsibility to manage its resources properly so that it doesn't resort to more borrowings. Nakikinig naman tayo sa lahat na nagsasalita, nakikinig tayo sa mga medical practitioners natin, nakikinig tayo sa mga kumokontra, lahat pinakikinggan natin dahil ito ay ayon sa ating demokrasya, Recto said. Do you feel heard?
No, not at all. I think it's in one ear and out the other. Kasi, alam mo yung problem ng healthcare professionals, kaya kami nagsama-sama. Kasi kami yung nilalapitan ng mga nangangailangan ng tulong eh. So, they cry literally for help because a father is dying and the PhilHealth coverage is not enough. And we have to think of ways to help them. And almost every day, at least one patient in such a situation will approach each of us. Kaya alam nyo, ang bilis-bilis namin nagsulat ng letter na yan. Parang in 2 days, 60 organizations all saying we should sign this. We cannot just sit down and let this happen. I cannot. The last time we got 60 organizations to sign so quickly because of such a big health issue was when the sin tax law was passed in 2012. It's happening again. The proceeds of the sin tax law are being challenged, and we need to protect it because it's meant to help those with less resources for healthcare. So no, we don't feel heard. We think parang lip service. What is lip service? We hear you. If there is no action connected to it.
Okay. We will leave it there for tonight, but we will check back in with you to see where you take this issue. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Dr. Antonio Danz, epidemiologist and academician from the DOST's National Academy of Science and Technology. Moving on to other news, the Philippines has agreed to host, for the time being, Afghan nationals caught in conflict upon the request of the United States. The temporary arrangement holds while the refugees' documents for resettlement in the U.S. are being processed. According to the Department of Foreign Affairs, Manila and Washington have agreed to allow a limited number of Afghan nationals to transit to the Philippines to complete their visa processing for special immigrant visas. The refugees can only stay in the Philippines for a maximum of 59 days. The DFA was also quick to clarify that the United States will foot all of the refugees' bills like food and shelter, and that this temporary setup still has to be approved by President Marcos. Some reports peg the number of Afghan nationals who are seeking refuge in the Philippines at 300, and all of them will have to undergo full security vetting by the U.S. before being transferred.
All right, circling back to the Senate, where things also got pretty heated over at the hearing of the Senate Committee on Public Order today. The panel, headed by Senator Bato de la Rosa, is investigating allegations of quote-unquote overkill in the way police served the arrest warrant for Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. This was back in June at the Kingdom of Jesus Christ compound in Davao City. Now, at that hearing, Kibuloy's legal counsel, Attorney Israelito Torreon, clashed with Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos. Torreon claimed that Abalos violated the law by accepting donations to come up with a 10 million peso reward for Kibuloy's arrest. He said this goes against the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, which prohibits officials from soliciting or accepting favors.
Public officials and employees shall not solicit or accept directly or indirectly. This is even made graver, Your Honor, in the light of the fact that this was done in the course of his official duty as the supposed implementer of the law.
Ako po ay hindi nag-solicit. Never ako nag-solicit. At hanggang ngayon, wala ako natatanggap ni 5. Wala.
Well, the Justice Department, for its part, has defended the 10 million peso reward for any information leading to the arrest of Pastor Apollo Kibuloy. Here is Justice Undersecretary Nicholas T. with what he said about that.
Legal ang pag-alok ng pabuya o ng reward. Bakit po ito legal? Unang-una, kasama ito sa trabaho namin sa justice sector. Dapat namin ipatupad ang mga criminal laws natin at hindi ito mapapatupad kung ang mga akusado ay hindi matatagpuan.
Well, as far as his whereabouts, Kibuloy is still reported to be in hiding. NBI they believe he's still somewhere inside the KOJC compound.
Well, after what happened to
so many
Alice
people
Guo,
we're looking for. We start the show with someone we're looking for, and then also now ending the show.
We are still looking for
with another fugitive. Can I now call Alice Guo fugitive? By the way, good question. The definition is someone who's evading arrest or persecution. there are arrest warrants out for her by the Senate, so I don't know if I can...
She's definitely being persecuted in public. That's what her lawyers
exactly.
would
So
say.
I don't know if I can now officially, but government officials haven't said so anyways.
Well, again, linking to the Alice Guo still being out there at large. Now, there is a freeze order by the Court of Appeals. This was issued last August 8 on all assets of Pastor Quiboloy. However, authorities are saying they're not discounting the fact that he could escape via private plane.
The private choppers. If Alice Guo, for instance, is proven to have escaped via private chartered plane, then PI, CAAP have a lot to answer for.
I think they should start checking underwater. I mean, that's one
because
thing.
I mean, and PAOK too, because PAOK itself pointed out that it's a known escape route.
Yeah. So why have you not plugged the hole?
Why have you not headed it off? Is the question.
Okay. Before we go, here is our big picture for tonight. Something different, not about missing people or people we're tracking down, but a very, very big change for the UAAP. Because soon to rise is its new home, a 6,000-seater arena, which will be built in Pasig City. The UAAP has partnered with Akari to build the arena, which is expected to be completed just in time for UAAP Season 89. This project is by Asha Design and is shaped like an 8 or an infinity, symbolizing the 8 member schools of the UAAP. Outside lights will also have the same theme, 8 colors for the 8 different schools.
Wow, it's so pretty.
I know, it's so nice. It looks so modern. It is in somewhere along C5 in the new
Bridgetown area,
which is starting to, it's starting to come to life.
I mean, they're holding what's that music festival, Hydro Music Festival there this weekend, right? And that's pretty huge. So once upon a time, I was, in the scene.
I know.
So to speak.
So shocked.
So to speak. I wasn't always like a mom, but yes, you're right. Bridgetown in Pasig seems to be a very up and coming area. I was just at the new mall there, Opus.
The really
for
fancy
the
mall.
premiere of the film about John Gokongwei Sr., A Boy, a Bicycle. Sorry, A Boy, a Bicycle, and the Legacy, which is now available on YouTube, so don't forget to catch it, which is quite nice. It's very nicely told about the legacy of John Gokongwei Sr., who, of course, built the JG Summit group of companies, and that spans
everything from Cebu Pacific, gave birth to that, snack food,
Universal Robina,
condominiums,
Robinson's Land, exactly.
Robinson's Malls.
That's right. So he's a true blue tycoon, and it's a very, very interesting, heartwarming story, and inspirational, I should point out. But anyways, my point was that I was just at Opus, and it itself is a gleaming, modern, impressive structure. So Bridgetown seems to be,
it's a place to be. Also, a nice place to walk your dogs on the weekends. Yes, very pet friendly. That's my thing.
That's your thing. Yeah.
So we managed to end tonight on a good note. That's it for the big story.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.